All right. Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, everybody. How are you? If you're live, say hi. Let me know that you're here. As always, we're going to dive into our topic. But as always, if you have questions or comments about this topic, whether you're live or on the replay, please share those questions, comments, concerns. Particularly if you would like some coaching around this topic. And I will answer it if you're live. Oh, golly. I'll answer it if you're with me, and oops. Sorry, technology went wonky. I will answer your question if you're here live with me, and I will, if you're on the replay, just tag me and I'll come back in and answer your comments. Okay, so hi, I hope everybody is well today. I'm gonna jump right into today's topic, which is, I'm talking about the value of the word no, the value of getting a no, whether that's, there's lots of ways that I think no plays out in business. And I wanna talk about that today. And I think it's something that we are often very afraid of. And I wanna sort of talk that through, normalize some of that, but also break down some of the ways that you can not let a fear of no run your business, run your life, create practices and processes in your business that actually don't serve you or your business. So lots and lots of stuff to talk about no today. I actually want to start with a funny little story because I think it's such a great example. I think it's such a great example of how it plays out. Actually, first, I'm going to lie to you. I have a couple of announcements. At the end of this month, I always go live every Wednesday. I have a couple of changes to that this month. Next week, I'm going to go live on Thursday instead of Wednesday. I'm just traveling on Wednesday, so I won't be able to go live from an airplane or airport. You wouldn't want me to, even if I could. So anyway, next week's regular live is going to be on Thursday, same time. But just on Thursday. And then the end of the month, May 25th through the 27th, I'm going to be teaching a workshop. Call it a masterclass if you want. I've been calling it a workshop because I think it's more appropriate to call it a workshop. But we're going to be talking all about pricing. It's called Aligned Pricing, how to create pricing that feels good and also makes you bank. And so I'm going to be going live for 30 minutes to an hour, 3 days in a row. So I'll be doing it Wednesday, the 25th, Thursday, the 26th, and Friday, the 27th. So I hope you will join me. This is something that I talk with my clients and work with my clients a lot on, pricing, especially the mindset around pricing, especially the strategy around pricing, and why, I think it's really easy, especially if you spend time in the online space or pay attention to the online space. I think it's, or the messaging that comes in a lot in the online space. And this is very, very, very well intended, but I think there's so many messages out there around, charge your worth, raise your prices, just charge more. And sometimes that's 100% the right answer. But sometimes it's not. You have to be able to energetically hold a bigger price point if you want to charge more. You have to be able to strategically make sure that your pricing makes sense, not only for the offer that you're thinking of, but it needs to make sense within the whole of all of the offers and all of the services and products and whatever it is that you sell. It all needs to make sense together, not just in terms of like, something might need to be cheaper than something else, or something else might need to be more expensive, but in the sense of what your strategy is and what you're incentivizing people to buy and how you want people to behave, what you want them to buy. And yes, you probably want them to buy everything, but how that works is part of your strategy. So it's a pricing conversation, and that's where we're going to stay. But just like anything in business, it's really hard to, I think, talk about one thing without talking about the context of it. So we are going to be talking about pricing in the context of your strategic approach to how you set up your offers. And then we're going to do a whole day on mindset. And again, this workshop is not a conversation about how to raise your prices and why you should raise your prices. We are going to talk about raising prices. That is a strategy that a lot of people are ready for. And for sure, everybody raises their prices over time at some point. So we are going to talk about that, but I feel the need to say before you join us on May 25th that this is not a, hey, it's time to raise your prices to $4 million and that's how you're going to make all the money that you want. Like, it's not about that. And this is about running, everything that I'm about is about running a conscious business. So that doesn't mean that you don't charge, right? And one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is, what does it even mean to have aligned pricing, which is the title of the workshop. Aligned pricing doesn't mean giving stuff away for too low of a price because you're so, mission driven and spiritual and conscious that you can't charge for it. That's not aligned. But it's also not about overcharging or charging what people tell you to charge and not what you can energetically hold and not what matches the value that you provide at your stage in business. There's so many aspects, I think, that go into pricing. So that is all the stuff that we're going to talk about at the end of the month. I will be posting information for you, a little bit more information, just a little more nitty gritty about what's included and which days we're going to discuss what, but you don't have to sign up. All you need to do is join the group. And if you're listening to this, you're already here in the group. So just save the date, the 25th, the 26th and 27th. And I will also create a little Facebook group event in there as well, if that's helpful for you. All right, so the workshop is the end of the month and we're gonna be talking about pricing, and it's free, guys, it's all free. And next week's live will be on Thursday. Okay, so back to the value of no. I wanna share a cute little story. Hey, if you're live, say hi. I don't see comments yet, but that doesn't mean anything. Sometimes they take a while. So I'm going to share a funny little story about no, and it's a cutie. So when my nephew was little, he's 12 now, but when my nephew was little, he would get really spun out by the word no in a way that I think most kids don't. So for sure, a lot of kids don't like to be told, like, no, don't do that, or no, don't touch that, or no, you can't have more, sugar or candy or whatever, right? And he was maybe, I don't know, whenever you start talking, like a year and a half, year and a half, 2 years, somewhere in that ballpark of age, where his, he was still developing work, learning how to speak and all that stuff. But if you said the word no to him, even in a neutral way, like if he said, hey, Laura, do you like the color blue? And I said, no, I really like the color purple better. He would get really upset and start crying. The word no, was a light bulb trigger for him, and freaked out. All of a sudden freaked out. And I think, we don't really know. He was too little to be able to explain it to us. But my sense of it is just that he knew the word no meant stop doing that. You can't have it, almost like that's bad behavior sometimes, right? And so he knew that word meant something in that ballpark, and he took every single no to mean that, and it made him really sad and really upset, and he would start crying, or I don't know if he would yell, but he would just get very anxious and upset. And so one of the things that my sister's amazing mother, as is my brother-in-law, is an amazing father. And they came up with, I can't remember the exact words, but I think they started to call it a silly no. so that they started to explain to him, like, there's no in the way that you're freaking out about it. But then there's also a no that's a silly no, where it's like, hey, Laura, do you like the color blue? No, that's a silly no. I like purple, right? And so they lightened it and they started to help him to understand that that word doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to mean, you're bad or you didn't do the right thing or you're not allowed to do that, which very independent, self-sufficient children really don't like to be told, no, don't do that. You're not allowed to do that, right? He was one of those. I am one of those still. I know many of you are super, super independent. I've done talked a lot about the fierce independence of those of us who are attracted to, many of us who are attracted to entrepreneurship. Anyway, can you see where I'm going with this cute little story? We often, just like my precious nephew, which by the way, that was a phase, but it's such a great example. I think we actually do take that into adulthood at some level, so beautifully sort of express back when we did. And I think we take that into adulthood around like whatever means to you, right? If it's limitation on your freedom, if it's rejection, if it's abandonment, we're going to talk all about the various pieces of this and the ways that this plays out in business. But whatever that means to you in your life or to you as a soul, not even as a soul, as a human, there are ways that can play out in your business that doesn't serve you or that isn't healthy or that maybe isn't just as ideally suited for you. And a lot of today is about mindset, but I think it's important to, what we're going to start to see is like practical ways that our fear of getting a no might play out in our business. So I want to just sort of introduce this concept to you, and then we'll talk about sort of how it plays out. So anyway, so as he used to, freak out about the no, understanding what's, I think part of today, I want to start to redefine like silly no's. And in our case, it doesn't exactly mean like redefining no into being something silly, but where can a no not be negative for you? Where can a no become neutral or actually a step towards the right direction versus a step in the wrong direction? So I want to just sort of start by asking you a few questions, and you can answer it however you want. Feel free to journal on this and pause me if you're watching the replay. But I think, like, where is it that you're afraid of getting a no in your business? So I'm going to give you a few examples and you may have others, but I think some really obvious ones that play out is if you're on a call with a potential client or customer and they say no, right? I don't want to buy this shit you're selling, right? The beautiful stuff that you're selling. So we have fears around like, almost like first dates, right? Rejection, fears around having a conversation with someone about working together or selling them something and then having them say no. There's a fear around that. Totally normal, totally human. Huge, huge, huge part of business is being told no. So how can we make that for you from a mindset perspective? How can you approach, this is what today's about, how can you approach those no's that come in business in a more neutral, or in my nephew's perspective, like in a more neutral or silly way versus a freak out of like deciding that a no equals bad stuff? So I'm going to sort of poke at that a little bit today. So like I said, sometimes I think it plays out the things that we might be afraid of, what a no might mean for you. Could be hopping on a sales call, hopping on a call with a potential client or customer and having them and not making the sale, right? That's a no in some ways. I would argue that sometimes, oftentimes people say no and then they say yes, but that doesn't matter. So where are you afraid of the no in your business, whatever no means to you? So I think a no can come through in a sales call. I think a no can also come through if you're working with someone So for example, in my case, I work with my clients for 5 months to start. A lot of my clients renew for at least another 5 months. Most of my clients I've worked with for at least a year. That's just what happens in my business. But for me, it's feasible that I could start to get afraid of a client not renewing. Could I take that and look at that as an opportunity to be freaked out about a no, right? Because in some ways, that's also not making the sale after already making a sale, but I might look at it that way, right? Let's say you are a web designer and you get people set up, like whatever it is that you offer, you get people set up on their website, and then you offer like an ongoing maintenance package, let's say. Maybe they buy your packet, the website, but they're not interested in the ongoing maintenance for whatever reasons, right? Are you afraid of, is that a no? Is that a thing that you're worried about? Is that a thing that you're gripping onto, that you decide that you need those people to always buy your ongoing maintenance package, right? So whatever it is, if you sell a product, are you upset if somebody only buys one thing and they're never a returning customer, right? For sure, there are things that we can do and ways that we can tweak our sales processes and our marketing and our offers if we want, depending on your business model. Some people do not set up their business to incentivize people to keep returning because maybe what they offer is more of a one-time deal. That's not wrong. It's just a business model that works, by the way, for many, many, many people. But again, I think that's another place where I see that play out in various people's businesses around the worrying about a no. Oh gosh, what if my client doesn't renew? I'm going to get rejected, right? I think that's a place where a lot of that happens. Or maybe there's an abandonment piece. So maybe the sales call feels like a rejection if they say no. If they say yes, but then they don't buy the add-on piece or they don't continue to work with you after, in my case, 5 months, then is that a rejection? Is that an abandonment, right? See how this is dipping into your mindset. And then another place that I've noticed, we've just had a shift on my team. We had one person leave and one person coming in. And it sparked a memory for me around having this feeling when I first started bringing people onto my team of like, okay, but you can never leave me. Like, great, welcome to the team. I really need your help. And like, you can never leave. I'm 100% dependent on you. This grippy energy, right? Which for many, many, many different ways. And I've had lots of conversations with clients around this with team. What is your dependency level? What is your gripping energy? What is your vibe around your team members? It's also so magically amazing when you find people that can really, really help you and really support your business. Big shout out to my team. I love you guys, you ladies. And then when you finally get the help that you need, oh my God, please don't leave me, right? So that could become a no if somebody were to say, which happens, by the way, all the time, especially in the online space, especially if your business model is even remotely like mine, where I only hire freelancers. Most people I know that run online businesses do not have full-time employees. So if you're working with freelancers, if you're working with people whose businesses are evolving and changing, it's very possible that your businesses will grow and evolve into different directions, and it's time to say goodbye. And that doesn't need to be a bad thing, right? And not creating a level of dependency that is gripping, where we're so afraid that somebody's going to leave us in our business that we create systems or processes or make someone feel pressured to stay with you when that actually doesn't make sense. Obviously, you can see how that doesn't really serve you or your team member or your business. To inject that energy. So those are the 3 places where I find that no comes up the most. If you're live or even if you're on the replay, I would love to know where no plays out for you. So where in your business is your biggest fear around receiving a no? It could even be too, like, no's can happen all the time. You might reach out. I saw this happen early on in my, okay, so now the fourth example. I saw this happen my first like 2 years in business. I did not do a lot of online marketing. I mostly did in-person networking and referrals. And a lot of times people would approach me, or I would approach people about maybe doing some sort of collaborative effort, creating an offer together, running a workshop together, becoming referral partners, and noticing the alignment between our work and agreeing that if somebody comes to me that's not quite a right fit, but that would make sense for someone else, that I would refer them to her, and vice versa, right? So you could reach out to somebody and say, hey, oh my gosh, I think you're so cool. I love what you do. I think our work is really aligned. Would you like to do a workshop together? And they say no. Or would you like to be on my podcast? And they say no. Or would you like to, refer business to each other? And they say no, right? There's lots of places where we can be rejected or told no or not. I mean, in some cases, just to like take it back down to the child level. And ultimately, all of our fears that play out in business and in life typically can be pieced back to or connected back to something that happened in childhood. We create so much of our worldviews and belief systems in childhood when we aren't fully developed. Our brains aren't fully developed. We are still learning what it's like to be human. And yet we create patterns and thought processes and belief systems back then that are still playing out today, and we may or may not be aware of it, right? That's the blessing and the curse and the beauty, I think, in doing mindset work and understanding yourself at a deeper level, and understanding, what your triggers are and how that plays out in your business. It's one of my favorite things to do. And it's also one of the most amazing things that when you create more awareness, when you're able to start to pattern interrupt those thought processes, when you're able to start to create new habits and take actions based on a more adult way of thinking, that's when the magic really happens for people in business. That's when they're really able to create whatever their next level is, and jump, really jump into the next level financially, from a fulfillment perspective, all of that. And that's a huge piece of what I like to help my clients with. So where is it that no is playing out for you? What are you afraid of? I'm just gonna check because something went wonky. The internet here has been not loving me lately. If you guys are live, let me know and just say hi, please. I'm going to just double check one more time. Okay, I'm definitely still here. Okay, yay. All right. So, yeah. And so where is no playing out in your business? Where is this? I mean, fear plays out all the time. But in this case, this is one of the ways that I think fear can run our lives, run our business, if we're not paying attention, if we're not aware. And I kind of want to offer, I want to offer up today this concept or this idea about what a no really means. And we're so deeply conditioned to think about no as a negative thing, as a rejection, as an abandonment, as a worthiness, a comment on our worthiness, right? Like, oh, you're not a good enough business coach. I don't want to work with you, right? That's not what it means. I'm not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. And everybody's not for me. I can't be the best business coach that I can be if I work with people that aren't a good match for me. And sometimes it's just like dating. One person realizes that before the other, right? For sure, if I'm on a discovery call with someone who doesn't seem aligned, who I don't think that I can help in the best way that I know I can, or they're not lined up with sort of the type of help that I provide my clients with. Like if somebody wants to, I don't know, what would not be aligned for me? Start a business. I don't know what it would not be aligned, but I guess my point would be that if they started a business in an industry that I wasn't familiar with, maybe like a tech startup, that's 99% of the time, working with a tech startup is not going to be a good fit for me. It's going to depend on the situation, right? So that's a great example. So maybe I recognize that and I don't make them an offer to work together because I know it, right? Is that a rejection of them? Are they feeling rejected, right? And the truth is, I want to argue that just like dating, while on the surface, it might seem like a rejection, oh, the guy didn't call the girl back, or this person wanted to go out again and that person didn't. While on the surface, that seems like a rejection. So much of business is relationships and fit. Even coming down to like the technology products that you buy. I was just having a conversation with a client on Monday about Calendly, right? So there's a bunch of different scheduling systems out there. I've tried several of them. And the one that really works for me, now I have a different business model than she does. The one that really works for me and that I like intuitively understand and appreciate is not the one that she's chosen. She's chosen a different one. We talked about the various options and she's made a choice, but and that's neither here nor there, but that's just a fit, right? It's just about what makes this most sense to you. It may or may not be that one is $5 per month cheaper than the other, right? Like at the end of the day, some people are going to make their decisions based on that, and that's okay. But that's also a fit for their budget or for what they're willing to pay for that particular item, right? So ultimately, if you just like think about like Coke and Pepsi, right? Everybody has an opinion about which is better. Very much the same thing. It's probably the same price. Like people just like what they like. Fit is really what comes down to it. Look at all the different milk options in the grocery store, yogurt options in the grocery store, egg options in the grocery store. I don't know why I'm in that. I'm in that aisle, but everybody goes for the brand that they want to go for, right? It's a combination of price. It's a combination of price and whether it's organic and what their values are around that and what their dietary restrictions and allergies are and what brands, I like their milk, so I'm going to try their yogurt, or what you like flavor wise. Like it kind of comes down to fit. So not everybody needs the Chobani yogurt. Not everybody needs the Horizon milk, right? Not everybody needs the Eggland's eggs. There's lots of other options out there. There's lots of other business coaches out there. There's lots of other web designers out there. There's lots of other VAs out there. There's lots of other life coaches out there, right? This is about fit. So why are we making a moment in time when one of two parties, in many cases, one of two parties in a sales call, let's say, says, no, this isn't a good fit for me. It's also not a good fit for the other person, right? Have you ever been in a relationship that you wanted, but the other person didn't want, right? Everybody's had unrequited love, or you've dated somebody for a minute and then they broke up with you. Yes, you might be sad. Yes, you might have wanted to date them. Yes, there is a process there. But ultimately, if someone doesn't want to be with you, if someone doesn't think you're a good fit for them, by nature of the like, how do I want to say that? Like the nature of that example is that there's a phrase I'm trying to find. Let's say it this way. Somebody doesn't want to be with you if they think you're not a good fit for them. They are also not a good fit for you. You might not know it. And you might not know why, because you just got to know them, but they're not a good fit for you either. So this is a mutually beneficial decision. The person who says no is serving the whole by saying, no, this isn't a great fit. Thank you so much. Right? Let me know how that resonates with you. Because I do want to start to break down. We're going to be talking all about sales and pricing and all of these kinds of things this month. You're going to start to see really clear themes in my marketing, in my posts and social media this month, and in these lives. So, and I've got a couple of specific lives coming up later this month. That's all about sales calls in particular. So I guess I'm a little bit starting in that direction here. But again, sales calls aren't the only opportunity where we get a no, right? We can get a no with team members leaving. We can get a no with clients who don't renew. We can get a no with, you know, somebody who used to work with you, used to buy your stuff, and comes back with an opportunity to maybe buy stuff again, and then maybe they say no, right? There's all different kinds of ways that that can play out. And I want to just start to break apart this belief system that so many of us have. I used to have this as well, around like needing to get a yes from everyone. No, I actually don't think you do. Like if we follow that logic for a minute, you can't serve everyone. If you're a web designer, you cannot do everybody's website. You do not have time. I don't care how big your company is, you cannot do everybody's website. And not everybody's website is a good fit for you. Not everybody's website or business is going to be set up for you to do the most amazing website for them, right? I like to use this example for my web designers around like somebody who doesn't know what their messaging is and doesn't have any copy or graphics, unless you do those things, or know like why they're in business, who they serve, what their offers are. They're not a good fit for you to come up with a website, right? Unless that's something that you do. But I think most web designers I know, even if they have copywriters, even if they have graphic designers, that would all need to be done first. And ultimately somebody needs to know about their own business so that they can communicate that to those who are supporting them to create a website that really represents the business. So if that's what you're in business to do, to create a website that really represents the business, and the business doesn't know who it is yet, that's okay. That's what happens when we start out, but it's probably not the best fit in that moment. So whatever it is that you do, where can you start to look at this no or this fear of no and start to look at it more as in a space of fit, and to trust the people that you're working with or potentially thinking of working with, trust that you can make a good decision for your business, and so can they. Just like if you're on a first date, I have to trust that I'm making a good decision for myself around whether or not I want to go out with this person a second time. And I have to trust that they also know how to make a good decision for themselves, and that I respect their decision if they decide that we're not a good fit, right? Because it's actually not a comment on me. It's actually not a comment on my worth. It's actually not a comment on my work. I'm going to say that again. When somebody tells you they don't want to work with you, or they don't want to buy your product, or they don't want to renew with you, or they don't want to collaborate with you, or they don't want to work on your team anymore, it's not a comment. It's not an evaluation or a comment on your worth, your work, who you are as a person, your value. If you're good enough, that's what a lot of, I think, fear comes down to, is like we worry that we're not good enough. We fear that we're not good enough. And the truth is, not everybody is matched for your work, nor are they supposed to be. Not everybody is you're not supposed to date everybody on the planet, right? You're just not. It's not, there's so many options out there. That's the beauty of the time that we live in, and so many options out there online. That's the beauty of the time that we live in. I was actually thinking the other day about how I was listening to this book about money on Audible, and they were talking about how new of a business model it is, even just to have venture capitalists, and how startups and entrepreneurs got started before venture capitalists even started out, and that there's hardly enough data to go on yet, because I think, what did they say? That's been 20, 30 years. God, I might be getting that wrong, but there's hardly enough data, I never remember numbers, to go on to sort of evaluate this business, this space right now, because it's still new in comparison to other, financial models. aren't we lucky to be living in an age where we can run our businesses online, in many cases from our homes? Aren't we lucky to be living in an age where I would never be living on this Caribbean island if I couldn't run my business from here? I would never be able to run this business and live where I live if I weren't doing it in this moment in time, when technology gives us that opportunity. Technology also gives us the opportunity to have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of options of people to meet, of people to work with, of people's stuff to buy. And so your word is getting out, your product is getting out, your services are getting out into much broader audiences than they would if this was 50 years ago. And that also means that there's much broader, casting a wide net is not always the best, because you aren't for everyone, okay? And so again, I'm coming back down to my little argument about fit, but where can you start to look at people telling you no as a thank you for letting me know that we're not a good fit, so that, to use the dating reference again, I don't keep going out with you every Friday night for the next few months to then get the same answer after a few months and like waste my time. I don't think that dating the wrong person is a waste of time personally. I don't think that working with the wrong person or the not best fit person is a waste of time, because I think that you learn who you want to be with, who you match with, who you're compatible with. Same with working. But at least you're not like, thank you for letting me know that you know now we're not a good fit, because I can just go move on to the people that I am a good fit for. And I can also take a moment from that sales call or that conversation or that experience with someone and say, oh, okay, you know, I wonder if there's anything else I could do better. What learning could I take away? This isn't about your value or your worth or what you're doing right or wrong. And where can you go, you know what? They figured out we weren't a good fit before I did, and I see now what they need. I think maybe next time I'm going to ask somebody a question about this particular topic so that I can kind of get to the bottom of that and know if it's a good fit, right? Again, I think sales calls are such a great example of that. There's another example. I just brought a new person onto my team, and I met her like a year and a half ago when I was interviewing for another position on my team. And I think I interviewed 3 or 4 people for one position. Obviously, I made an offer to one person. But every single person that I interviewed, I was like, wow, this person would be absolutely the right fit for my team. I just didn't think they were the exact right fit for that job in that moment. But I really loved everybody. And I have actually stayed in touch with 3 of them. That's what I'm trying to remember if there were 3 or 4, but I've stayed in touch with them. I've been able to refer business to each of them, each of the people that I didn't hire. And now one of the people who the person who just joined my team is someone from that interview process who technically I told her no a year and a half ago. And then I called her recently and said, hey, I want to talk to you about this project that I need help with. And is there a way that we could maybe work together? So sometimes fit and sometimes no is just a no, not right now. And so when you have an opportunity to speak with someone and they say to you something like, I need to think about it, or I'd like to call you later, or I'm not quite ready. Like, yes, 100%. Sometimes that is a nice way of saying, no, this is never going to happen. But so often, no is just a no, not right now. And you never know. They may become your biggest fan on social media that likes everything that you post. They may read every email of yours. They may refer you your next client. They may hire you again a year and a half later. In my case, my current business coach, I went through, this is my 3rd business coach. And I actually met her for the first time 6 months. Yeah, 6 months before I decided to work with her. So, and I was actually still I was finishing up working with a different business coach at the time. And I knew that that relationship was going to end. And I want to talk actually about this again. There's another fit piece here. But I just sort of felt called to hop on a call with her. And so I reached out to her and I said, look, I'm not ready to hire somebody yet, but I'm thinking ahead. And so in essence, I didn't really know 6 months prior what I was going to do, but I wanted to start thinking about it. Hi, Nicole, welcome. And so I told her no, but it was a no, not right now. And that's what I told her in the moment. I actually said to her, this is a no, not right now. But again, how does she know I wasn't just being polite? How does she, trying to cushion the blow? How does she know? She didn't know if I was ever going to reach back out. And we stayed in touch, right? The value of the follow-up is also really valuable. And it was really, really nice to know that she didn't forget who I was. She was absolutely wanting to support me in saying, I'm not ready yet, but also in saying, I would really like to work with you when you're ready. And 6 months later, I hired her, and she's been my business coach for over a year now. And she's absolutely, hello, Kim Argetsinger. She's absolutely magical. So, and we're a great fit for one another, especially at this point in my business. And my prior business coach was also a great fit for me, but just at a different phase in my business. And so this is where I really want to get into this idea of where are you afraid of people telling you no? And what does that even really mean? We want to make it about, our fearful parts want to make it about, our childish parts want to make it about. My nephew wanted to make it about rejection, abandonment, not being good enough, a comment on our value or our worth, a comment on whether we're good at what we do. Let's just go ahead and assume right now that everybody in this group, if you're doing work that's heart-centered, that you're good at what you do, that you're working in your zone of genius. That's not a comment on your work. So let that go. And if somebody doesn't like your work, it's not a good fit, right? I could be a great girlfriend, but not everybody's going to sit in a coffee shop across the table from me and think that I'm going to be a good girlfriend for them. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about while we're staying on sales, the idea of like getting a no on a sales call. Nicole says, it's been ages, glad to catch you live. I'm so glad you're here. Let me know if you have questions. We're talking about getting no's in your business, getting whatever, however you perceive rejection or abandonment to be in your business, and how we create systems and processes around that. So anyway, so Rich Litvin is a guy, he's a coach, who is sort of a famous coach who coaches coaches. And he has this thing that he calls the client creation game. And I think depends on your business model, and it depends on your phase in business as to whether I think this is helpful. But I think I like his game because he calls it a game, and I think it's a great exercise for certain people. So feel free to take this. It's not even mine. Feel free to take this and use it. But he has like a little spreadsheet that he creates. You can get it for free on his website somewhere. And it's called the client creation game. And he basically says, if you want to, let's pretend you want to create 5 new clients. He basically says you need to make more than 5 offers, and you need to get more than 5 no's. And so he incentivizes you to really track and think about, how can I just get more people on a call with me? How can I just reach out to some people and start to have conversations with people? And then I'm actually going to get more points in my game if I get a no than if I get a yes. So he flips it completely around the other way, around, instead of looking for the yes and wanting a yes and needing a client to work with us, right? And this isn't about trying to manifest what you don't want, but I find so often when we really, really want something, we can be a little too grippy about it, a little too attached to it, a little too controlling around it, a little too needy and desperate around it. And what I love about this game is it really loosens it. First off, it makes it more fun because you start giving yourself points for every call you may have a conversation with. You get points for all the offers you make. So you track, and I also love this from a sales perspective. Track in dollars. Every time you make somebody an offer, whether they take it or not, doesn't matter. It goes in your, I have this, I actually really do this piece all the time. I track all the offers that I make so that I can look at the dollars and say, if I'm not making the money that I want to make, am I even making the offers to make that money? Or am I only making, like, let's say one offer a month, in which case that's not going to get me to my business goals. How can I make more offers to people? Because odds are that the more people you talk to, the more offers you make, assuming they're the right ones and the right fit, right? I'm going to probably get more yeses. I'm also going to get more no's. And he's like, that's a great thing. That's good. It's not a comment on your worth. It's not a comment on your value. It's not a comment on anything. Your job is to get your message out there. Your job is to talk to people if you're a service provider. Your job is to get your product under people's noses. It's about getting that momentum and movement going. And if you have a bunch of no's, that means you're also going to ultimately get a bunch of yeses. I mean, if you're making a bunch of offers, it means you're ultimately going to get in some cash. But there's a whole bunch more to this game, which I will leave it because there's sort of different topics for different days. But the idea being, if you're getting excited about tracking no's, and particularly if you're really, really afraid of no's, this is a great game to play with yourself, and maybe incentivize yourself with, like, whatever it is, a piece of candy, a bottle of wine, a night out, whatever, to, like, get yourself going on it. But it's a much lighter, easier way of thinking about sales when you're, like, getting points for no's. And it starts to pattern interrupt. It starts to really pick at, I always think about, like, limiting belief systems as like an an iceberg. And we're taking an ice pick and chipping away. It's not, you can't take an iceberg and, like, melt it right away, right? But if you want to melt an iceberg, the first thing you need to do is you need to start chipping at it a little bit with an ice pick, say, or whatever kind of tool you use, to start chipping away at the solidity of it. Is that a word? How big and solid and strong it is, so that you can start chipping away at it. And every little action, every time you tweak a habit, every time you pattern interrupt and you go, wait a minute, I'm going to stop and catch that thought. And be aware of the fact that this fear is playing out right now. I'm afraid of getting a no. These little games like this really helps to chip away at that belief system that you have. And it also starts to, I always like to talk about evidence. It also starts to present evidence to the contrary, right? Oh God, getting a no is really bad and scary. I better, like, that's just going to also make you not want to hop on sales calls with people. It's also going to make you have a harder time actually selling your stuff with people if you get on a call and you're all freaked out about it, right? Or you're feeling desperate, or you're feeling like you have to make a sale or else it means something about who you are and your value. Okay, hold on, I'm seeing a couple more comments. Nicole says it's not, I never thought about tracking the offers. It's tracking leading versus lagging indicators. Exactly. And he talks about how cash is a lagging indicator, right? So, and a lagging, he uses a different word. It's not even an indicator. It's a, can't think of what he uses, but the first thing that happens is you make a meeting with someone, right? And then the last thing that happens is a sale with actual cash. But there's a lot of stuff that happens in between, like making somebody an offer, metric maybe, yeah, making somebody an offer, getting a yes or a no, sending out an invoice, right? Like setting up time or a contract to start working together. Those are all the things that happen before you actually get the cash, right? So it is the lag. There's like the leading and the lagging. There's the first thing that happens, which is make a bunch of freaking offers. Track the yeses, but track the no's and give yourself lots of points for no's. Ultimately, the lagging piece, the cash will come. Oh, he talks about like sales and then cash, right? So you make a sale, but then that doesn't always depends on your business model and how you invoice people and what people pay you for when people pay you. You know, like I might meet with somebody and they say, yes, I want to work with you. Great. We're going to start next month. I just made a sale. Even if they put down a deposit, I get the real cash, like, you know, the next month for me anyway. And Nicole also says no means not right now. 100%, 100%. And sometimes people mean no in the moment, right? And this is not a comment, by the way, on no means no, no really means no. But sometimes people mean no, but they stay in your space. They're still in your audience. They're still being served by you. And they might eventually work with you. So even if they say, no, not right now, that could mean no, never. It could mean no, not right now. It could mean no, maybe later. Like it could mean all different things. And it really doesn't matter. Your job is to know whatever you can know about the best fit in that moment. And then, and to your point, Nicole, yes, you can always recommend, they can always, oh, hold on. Okay. So I thought you said something else. Your job is to know if it's a fit for you in the moment based on whatever information you can get. Their job is to know if it's a fit for them in the moment. Your job is to make an offer if it's a yes for you. Their job is to say yes or no. It's actually quite neutral if you really let it be and you think about it in terms of, I only want to work with people who really want to work with me. I only want to work with people who I really want to work with. I only want to work with people on problems that I really want to help solve, right? Just because I could help you with, I used to do freelance bookkeeping. Just because I could help you with your bookkeeping, I really, really, really don't like bookkeeping and I do not want to help you with that, right? So just because I can doesn't mean I should. So if what they're looking for is bookkeeping, I'm going to refer them out to a proper bookkeeper. I understand it. I could do it. I have no interest in it. Okay. And then I had another thing that I wanted to say about this. Yeah. So where does this play out? I can't believe it's taken me 55 minutes to get to this point. I have like 87 more points here. Where does this play out in your business? And Nicole is saying, yes, they can always recommend you to others 100%. And I find that happens so many times. I will have a client, person reach out to me and say, in fact, I had a conversation with somebody a while back and she directly said, and I loved this because she knew in the moment that she said she specifically wasn't sure that coaching was for her, like coaching in general. Right. So if somebody is not comfortable with coaching, I'm probably not going to be a good fit for them. I'm really not going to be a good fit for them. But she said, I know a lot of people that would really benefit from your work. If it's okay with you, I'd love to send them your way and have them join the Facebook group. 100%. Right. That's a great no. I'll take that no any day. Right. And I think this idea of remembering too, that this happens to me a lot too, remembering that, because I get a lot of times a no that becomes a yes later. Coaching is something that you really have to trust the person. You really have to get to know the person. And I think that's also why a lot of times I like to do these lives, because people get to know me through this space. And I think, oh, what was I going to say? Referring. Oh, I can't tell you how many times people have told me no, and then said, you know, I've been watching all your lives, right? They're staying in my space. And then eventually they become a yes. There is a space where I could have said, oh my God, like I'm getting a no. Maybe I mean, this is dramatic, right? But like, maybe I'll just take them off my email list because they said they didn't want to work with me. Right? Or I'm not going to reach out to them when I have another offer because they said no. Yeah, it depends on what offer it is and whether that would work for them. But maybe the reason they said no is because they didn't have the money for a one-on-one coaching program. But maybe then if I offer some sort of lower ticket item or a group coaching program, maybe that would be perfect for them. And I'm missing an opportunity to work with somebody who actually wanted to work with me, but it just wasn't the right time or price point. And so, and this isn't to say like go hound all your no's and try to force them into becoming yeses, but it is to say that like just like once somebody is in your audience, that's kind of how I like to look at it. They're in your audience. They can refer people to you. They can be your biggest fan. It could be that, and you will never know this, but it might be that they one day liked something of yours and it showed up in someone else's newsfeed that follows them, and that brought them into your space. I'm not going to be sad about that, right? You never know where things are going to go, and having people in your audience and serving your audience, serving your audience with your social media posts, with your lives, like this case, with your Facebook groups, with your Instagram reels, serving your audience with emails, with YouTube videos, with whatever it is that you do, you're continuing to serve your audience, your yeses and your nos. The future yeses, the future nos, the past nos that become yeses. I also want to talk about how, and ask you some questions, have you think about how, where does this play out for you, not just in a mindset perspective, but where have you actually taken clear action and set up practices and processes in place to avoid getting a no because you decided that no's were bad. And again, I'm not saying go get on 27 discovery calls to make, one new client. We do want to talk about like your conversion rate and just like why profit's important. Like, yes, the cash, the dollars that you bring in, gross that you bring in is really important, but we really care about your net, right? We really care about your profit. We really care about what you're taking home. Same with your conversion rate. So this isn't about go get on a call and that it's all about, 9,000, too much, working too hard and all of that stuff. But what I find happens a lot when I look at people's system, and I don't mean like tech systems, but I mean like systems and ways of getting work done and processes or contracts or offers, is they took this like maybe one or two or even a bunch of no's and they went, okay, what can I do to avoid getting a no again? And then they started slapping some things into their contracts or into their sales process, like that push people away because they're so determined to never get a no again because they're afraid of it, right? Sometimes this comes in the form of, now I use questionnaires when people book a discovery call with me. If you book, oh, by the way, I'm still doing my free coaching sessions. If you guys want a free coaching session, I'll put the link here in the comments. I include a questionnaire with my free coaching session so that I can get a sense prior to hopping on a call, get a sense of what's going on in somebody's business, so that, because we only have 45 minutes together, so that I can like give them the biggest bang for their non-buck because it's free. I can give the biggest bang for the buck and like really serve them for 45 minutes instead of like asking them a bunch of questions and then that takes 30 minutes and then we only have 15 minutes for coaching. So questionnaires can be useful. And I have seen people, it's a great example of, I've seen people say like, are you this? Are you this? Are you this? What's your motivation for working with me? Will you promise to pay on time, right? Or whatever it is that you're afraid of, right? So if you've had clients not pay on time, if you feel that you need to build that into like your questionnaire up front, leading with fear. You're building walls into your sales process that doesn't allow you to actually get the yeses that you're looking for because you're focused on, I'm going to take these actions to remove my fear. I'm going to take these actions to say, I'm never going to get a no. And by the way, you're going to get lots of no's as part of business. If you're trying to set up things and put things in place in your business so that you never get a no, you're going after what you don't want instead of going after what you do want. So to use that example as of the questionnaire, I think is a great example. Ways that you can use the questionnaire to your benefit is, what are some of my like requirements for working with people, right? I like to tell people what my prices are. So before they waste their time to hop on a call with me, if that's a non-starter, then they'll cancel the call with me. So I include my prices in the questionnaire. That feels good to me. That doesn't, but I'm not saying in there, do you promise to pay me upfront? And this is how much I charge. I only work with 100K business owners or whatever. No, I don't care how much money you make. I just care if you can pay me, right? Whatever it is. So what was the example I wanted to use? Rather than trying to weed out, and I think it's appropriate, again, let's use this questionnaire as an example, but there could be lots of, like you may have not a questionnaire, but you may have something else in your sales process. But let's use that as the example. Like, instead of asking a bunch of weed out questions, ask a bunch of questions that give you the answer to, are they a good fit for me, at least surface wise, at least at the, at first glance. That will drive you, when you're so focused on not getting the thing that makes you sad, not getting the thing that you're afraid of, you're just going to, what you focus on expands, right? You're just going to attract more of that. And just like when you can't energetically hold your pricing, which we'll talk about at the workshop at the end of the month, when you're approaching a situation with a fear-based approach, the energy of that doesn't feel good. And if you're wanting people to feel good about working with you, it just makes you feel, to them, it may impact, it's not a rule, but it may impact their ability to feel like they can trust you. It may impact their ability to feel that you've got them. It may impact their ability to feel like you're confident in what you do, because that whole idea, like, you have to be sold on you first, you have to be sold on your prices first. If you don't buy into some element of what you're offering people, they probably won't either. They might not like consciously know it, or they might not be able to speak to it at this level because a lot of it's energy, but they're not gonna, you tell people how to treat you, right? Like, they're just not, it's not as easy to make a sale. Let's just put it that way. It's not as easy to make a sale, and it's not as easy to make a sale with someone that is a really good fit. And I find that when we lead our sales calls with these fearful practices, or I'm going to make sure that weed out question is on my questionnaire, so that I don't even waste my fucking time with anybody who doesn't remotely match me, that vibe is in there. They might not know why, but they feel it, right? And so again, what you focus on expands. So if you're very clear about the people you don't want to work with, if you're very clear about what makes things not a good fit, or what are the things that people have told you no, like, if you have feedback from people who've said, no, I don't want to work with you, maybe you can find out why. Maybe you already know why. And then, okay, great. These are examples of what's not a good fit. So what is a good fit for me? What do I want in an ideal client, in a customer, in a person that purchases stuff from me? What do I want? What is the best fit for me? Put some questions around that into your questionnaire, or into your sales process, into your practices, into your contracts. I have a line, I wish I could pull it up for you, but I have a line in my contract about how you get out of it what you put into it, that coaching is something where you get out of it what you put into it. There's a different way of saying it in my contract, but I actually have that in my contract, and it doesn't say something like, you must come to every meeting, and you must show up on time, and you must do your homework. And because I assign my clients homework if they choose to accept it. And if you want results, you'll do what I tell you to, right? Like, first off, that's not my style. But I have worked with people who weren't committed to the process for themselves, and I can't do it for them, right? And so I have been able to put language in my contract that, and my lawyers told me to too, but that says something to the effect of like, here's how you can get your best results. That's what I want for my clients. That's me approaching something as legal and boring and blah as a contract, and saying, I'm going to put into it what I want. And I'm going to be direct and honest with my clients about, where I stop and they begin, and how I'm here to help them, but I'm not here to do their job for them, right? So where are you in your business leading with fear? Where are you in your business fearful of no's? And how can you lighten that up? And going back to my little example with my nephew, where can you look at things as a silly no, or oh, thank you for letting me that's a no, so that I don't spend any extra time, trying to work and create this partnership with you, so that I can actually spend all my time on people who are interested in working with me. and go serve those people and go serve my audience of potential clients and go, just keep moving along my path instead of spending time in a space that's not the right fit? How can you lighten up your vision of what no means? Play the Litvin client creation game, right? Track your no's, track your offers. There's so much value in lightening up the no. And I have a couple other things I want to talk about sales calls, but I will hold that. I've got a bunch of, as I said earlier, sales and pricing is the big topic for this month. So you're going to see a lot of that in my content. You're going to see it on social media. You're going to see it in my emails, and you're going to see it in these lives. So quick reminder, next week's live is a similar topic. I can't remember which one is next week, but we're going to go live on Thursday next week instead of Wednesday, just because I'm traveling on Wednesday. And then at the end of the month, the last Wednesday of the month, I think it's the 25th, is the pricing workshop. It's called Aligned Pricing, how to create pricing that feels good and makes bank. And we're going to talk, it's going to be a 3-day masterclass on, an hour each day, 3-day masterclass on mindset, strategy, practical elements of what goes into pricing, looking at it from the context of the bigger picture of your offer and what you're incentivizing people to do. So I hope you'll join me. It's free. It's here in the group. You don't even have to sign up. All you have to do is show up. So I hope I will see you there, and I'm sending you all so much love. I hope you have a great week, and let me know if you're on the replay. Let me know if you have questions. Thank you, Nicole, for joining. It's lovely to see you, my dear, and have a great week, guys. Bye.